Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Breakouts, a podcast where we interview extraordinary founders in just under 20 minutes. I'm your host, Akkshay Khosla. Now, you'll find many podcasts out there that are 2 to 3 hours long and interview these wildly successful founders after they've already made it big. But by that point, the founders are already 5, 10, or even 15 years into their journey, so their insights just aren't as actionable anymore. We're doing things a little bit different. We're interviewing founders that are on the cusp of breaking out so that you can learn the playbooks they're using to build category-defining companies today. And we're doing it in just under 20 minutes. Now, just before we get started, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and join our Discord community for aspiring founders. The link is in the description below. And I think that's everything I have for you. So without further ado, here's today's guest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a phenomenal guest for you today on The Breakouts. We have Nguyen, the co-founder and CEO of Starlight. Now, Starlight recently raised a $5 million seed round at the intersection of fintech and crypto. Gray, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day in New York City. How are you?
Good, man. Good. I'm also in New York City, and it is phenomenal outside. If you could see this view, it makes me really happy. But awesome. So Gray's going to be here with us for 2 episodes. And now in this first episode, we're going to talk about how your startup came about, how it works, and what you think about winning the industry. Like, what do you think gives you an edge when tackling the space? So to get us started, just briefly in a few sentences, tell us a little bit about what your startup does and what problem you're trying to solve.
For sure. At Starlight, we're currently building the financial stack for businesses to operate in both crypto and fiat. What that means is that today we can help businesses set up a deposit account, a custodial wallet, and help them on and off ramp in less than 30 minutes. The current solutions today, as a business, right, you would have to use something like a Coinbase with an anchorage for custody. And the process for setting that up could take up to weeks and sometimes months. And we make that just super seamless for builders so that they can focus on going back to building what they were meant to be building rather than managing their finances. So you can think of us like a Mercury or Brex or Ramp, but for crypto.
Very cool. So when you say it's a wallet for companies, what exactly are they doing with this wallet? Are they using this wallet to invest? Are they using it to pay for services that they use to run their company, to send crypto to employees? Or what are the kind of use cases we're looking at here?
Yeah, so the businesses that we target aren't necessarily the businesses that invest in crypto or speculate on crypto. They're really businesses that are operating crypto. And what I mean by that is they could be receiving investments in stablecoins like USDC, or they could be receiving income in crypto, or they could also be spending it out. A very common use case is, let's say, if you're building in Web3 and you have to deploy smart contracts, right? You need some sort of way to get that crypto and be able to pay for the gas fees. So currently, I guess to sum up, it's revenue, expenses, and also paying for your contractors or your employees. I'd say the main use case.
That makes sense. So basically, the companies you're targeting are crypto native, right?
Yeah, we like to think about them as not necessarily just companies. They're legal entities that could be a DAO, right? A DAO with a LLC backing them, or they could be a crypto native company, or they could really be a Web2 company, but touching crypto. So we have some of our customers who are just building traditional tech businesses, but they serve crypto clients and their clients wants to pay them in crypto.
Fascinating. Now, tell us a little bit more about your background. What were you doing previous to building this company? And what was your journey to getting to this point?
Yeah, my journey to here has been very much not linear at all. My background is that I went to college years ago studying business, thinking I would end up doing businesses, but really didn't enjoy doing consulting or investment banking like some of my peers did. So I spent all my time building products, either apps for people around me or for startups or big tech companies. That at college was also where I met my co-founder. He was actually the first person I met in college. He is an engineer by training though, so he went to work at other fintechs like Capital One and Blend and at Open Door previously. And right after college, I went to work at a startup, a very small startup in New York City. And I was the product lead there, helping them develop the mobile and the web apps. And actually during COVID, me and my co-founder, we were just so bored inside that we decided to build bunch of apps, either for ourselves or for our friends around us. And along the way, we realized that the products that we're releasing, just like as a side hobby, was actually very high quality. And I remember about a year ago, we saw a tweet from Reid Hoffman tweeting out saying that if you're a founder or aspiring founder, you should definitely talk to the folks at South Park Commons. And for those of you who don't know, South Park Commons is essentially a community of builders in tech. And the whole thesis around South Park Commons is that they don't believe that building a business is a linear path either, right? People pivot and explore. It doesn't take 90 days to go to a demo day and raise money. It sometimes takes more, it takes less. And we were at first skeptical about it, but after chatting with the folks there, we were very inspired by the clarity of thought and what they built so far. So me and my co-founder left our full-time jobs to join that community to explore. And along the way, we built a bunch of different tools in the DAO space, in the NFT space. And we never intended to build a fintech company. But one of the problems that we saw when we were building all these other tools was that businesses have a hard time managing their finances. For us, it was such a messy problem of like, how do we on and off ramp our own businesses? And we saw our friends who were building crypto companies having that problem. So we started building a solution and got some of our friends starting using it. And that really snowballed into what is Starlight today.
That's awesome. That is such a fascinating journey. Now, talking a little bit more about Starlight, right? If you had to describe a few key use cases, key user journeys, and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. The first use case, what I like to think the magical moment for our product is, unlike a lot of services out there that businesses can use today, Starlight itself is entirely self-serving, meaning a businesses can, after we whitelist them, they can sign up and go through the entire onboarding of KYC and KYB in less than 30 minutes and connect their bank accounts and start buying and selling crypto instantly. So we have built an entire end-to-end solution from your non-custodial wallets on-chain directly into your bank accounts, whether that is a Silicon Valley bank or a Mercury bank, right? And allowing folks to do that just like by themselves is the first magic moment for us. And on top of that, right, we're building a bunch of other features and use cases to help those customers. So one is the expense management side, right? You can imagine in your Web2 world, businesses already have a lot of different expenses. Maybe they have a few bank accounts, but in Web3, that need is more important than ever, right? Some businesses have like 5 to 10 different wallets. For them, it's a pain to manage all these different wallets and figure out what's their funds going in and out each month. And for us, we help them consolidate that and digest all that and be able to one-click export to something like QuickBooks. So at the end of the month, they don't have to spend like a few hours trying to figure out where their expenses or what their revenue looks like in crypto. Applying a lot of the lessons in Web2 and applying that to Web3, there's a lot of use cases that we're still building there and iterating on with our customers.
That's very interesting. I'm curious, in terms of empowering all these use cases for businesses, right? Are you focusing more on companies that have exclusively crypto as their operating currency, or are you also focusing on companies where they might have part of their assets in crypto and they might do part of their business in crypto, but they might also use the US dollar as well?
Yes, for sure. So pretty much all businesses that we work with today, I believe fall into the second bucket, which is some crypto, some fiat, because the reality is a lot of the things that you can buy today are in fiat, right? For example, you can't really go to a restaurant yet and pay for your meal with USDC. And actually, that is one of the problems that we are trying to solve, being able to build ramps directly to merchants. But today, our businesses are still holding both fiat and crypto. And I think it's less of a divide between, are you a crypto business or are you a traditional fiat businesses? I think that line's going to blur over time because there will be some things that you can only buy in crypto and there'll be some things that you can only buy in fiat.
That's a strong bet to take. I think the way you're looking at the space is very promising. I'm curious, as soon as you draw the analogy to Ramp or Brex, first question pops into my head then is, hey, are there rewards? Are there points for spending? Have you guys thought about that? Or are you working on that? Or
Yeah, for sure. Definitely on the, I guess, the traditional merchant and payer side, there's rewards to be done there. We're currently working on that, but for us, the priority is solving sort of the core pain point at the moment. There's just a lot of business out there with a lot of money in crypto or a lot of money in fiat that they'd like to move around. And that is a very difficult problem today. So we're solving the first problem first and then eventually expand into a lot of other exciting areas.
That makes sense. And I'm curious, how do you think about your business model? Maybe a few things to talk about. One, if you're open to sharing kind of the number of customers that you have or the number of businesses you're working with. If you're not, it's totally cool. And second, then per business, how do you make money?
For sure. So one of the key insights that we have, or really what we believe in our current industry, which is crypto for businesses, is that unlike a lot of our other peers and builders in the space, we believe that for crypto to go mainstream for businesses, it really needs to look a lot like what fiat was for businesses. What that means is that custody right now, if you go to a lot of custody providers, they might charge you a few $1,000s a month. And that kind of pricing just doesn't work for businesses, especially when fiat, right? You can put your money in a bank for pretty much free and they actually want your funds. So that paradigm of charging people for storing their money does not make sense. The other paradigm too of like charging people for just payments overall. When you buy food at a restaurant, you don't pay Visa for using their card at a restaurant. In fact, Visa charged the merchant. So today for businesses, a lot of times with current tools, they are being charged for using stable coins, which is funny enough, the reverse of what crypto was supposed to be, which is supposed to be free, fast, and efficient. And today, a lot of those promises aren't there. So for us as a business, for us to deliver and really propel the industry as a whole, we believe that we're here to build for builders. We want people to use crypto more and more, not as a replacement, but more as an alternative to current fiat solutions. And what that means is that we're not charging, $1,000 of using our product. In fact, Starlight as a whole, it's currently today is free to use. And the way that we make money is like the businesses that you can imagine in Web2, right? Like banks make money, right, on your either offering you other services that they provide or offering you cards so they can do interchange. So for us, we really rely on the second model. And because we truly believe that for crypto to go mainstream, you got to allow businesses to seamlessly interact with crypto. So when you say that you make money primarily through that second case, issuing cards, could you talk a little bit more about that? Like what might it cost a business? Is it a card that you pay a yearly fee for? Is it a card that, hey, there's a certain percentage on late fees? Talk a little bit more about that. For sure. So like your traditional, let's say, cards in Web2, right? You don't really pay, let's say, like Discover to use their card. Every time you use their card, they actually charge the merchant something called an interchange fees. So their businesses is not making money on the end users, but rather on the merchant. So for us, that's one of our revenue stream. But the other part too is like just today, let's say they want to on and off ramp crypto. They're already paying someone like Coinbase or Gemini an absurd fees already. For us, obviously, we're not trying to take as high a fee, but still like that's part of our revenue. And we think as if businesses could not put their money with Coinbase for just one service, they would pay effectively the same price under the hood, and they would think there's no price difference, but they will get a bunch of other services combined into one.
That makes sense. If you think about some credit card providers that charge merchants, right? They typically run on these payment processing networks like Visa or MasterCard. And Visa and MasterCard already have relationships with so many different merchants. So I'm curious, how do you go about building those relationships? I'm sure it's quite a big undertaking, or is there something I'm missing here?
Correct. Not to talk too much about things that are under the hood, but we are working with Visa on that side to basically, how do we build this rails between fiat and crypto? But yeah, it would not make sense for us to rebuild this network.
That makes a lot more sense. Awesome. Very cool. And how many customers do you have at this point?
Yeah. At the moment, we're really just serving a small group of what I like to think very exciting builders in crypto, but happy to share more of that later down the line, which hopefully not too long from now.
Of course, and we totally respect that. And right now, at the moment, are you guys in beta? Have you fully launched? Where in your journey are you?
Yeah, so really since our fundraise, we've been focusing a lot on iterating with our customers. So we are in private beta. We are always looking to onboard exciting teams, building extraordinary products in the space, because for us, we are here to support other builders and founders. And we are looking to expand more and more when we're onboarding more folks each week. But at the moment, we're in beta.
Gotcha. And is the primary way that people interact with your service, is that through like a dashboard? Is it API based? Can they white label their own solutions? Or could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it is entirely via the dashboard. You can think of it if you use like your banking dashboard, it's effectively the same thing. And we are building API layers on top. So let's say as businesses scale, they can build their own solutions to automate certain processes.
Awesome. Very, very cool. So I'm curious, let's talk a little bit more about the competitive landscape here, right? So for example, if you look at companies like Coinbase, they also have offerings for businesses, right? Manage their crypto. And I'm sure there are others out there as well. Who do you believe are your main competitors? And then how do you aim to beat them?
For sure. I think the space that we're in right now might be, or I believe the product that we're building might be one of the most adjacent products to other companies in the space, just because the nature of both fintech and crypto, and with the crypto, there's so many tools like accounting software, right, on and off ramps, custody. So the way that we think about our competitor is not so much like, do we need to watch someone in particular and see all their moves and anticipate their plays? The real thing that we're watching is like, how do we propel the industry as a whole? I think we at the moment welcome other folks in the space, because what we believe is that what matters more is the industry moving as a whole, just because crypto is still very, very early, and especially crypto in the business setting is still very early. That said, there are a lot of other players in the space, right, building one-off tools that might be features in our product. But the way that we position Starlight is that we're really building an ecosystem of financial products for founders, right? Meaning, instead of having to pick off a tool for your wallet's infrastructure, a tool for your exchanges, a tool for your accounting software, we make it super simple if you're building a company in crypto to just default to, and we'll take care of all the hard work, provide you with all the tools that you need. I think at the moment, no one really has that product yet. And I think it is a tool that you've already seen, how it played out in Web 2. That's why you have your Ramp and your Brex, right? It's sort of like the default place for founders to really go to if they need that kind of service in Web 2. And that doesn't exist yet in Web 3.
Interesting. I'm trying to draw parallels here to other industries, right? If you think about it, in a lot of cases, there's one-off tools, but combining them together can result in efficiencies that are more along the lines of, hey, 1 + 1 = 3, as opposed to like 1 + 1 = 2. So one example is like in B2B SaaS, like ClickUp, right? They brought 3 main functions together and saw their customers benefit more than they would using those a few tools separately. So I think that's really interesting. I'm curious more along the lines of competitive advantage. I think it's good to think about, hey, how can the industry move forward? But I think every founder does think about, and obviously when you go out to raise, this is probably a big question that comes up, is how do you win the industry? What is your competitive advantage? If you were to just summarize the top 1 or 2 points there, right? What would those 1 or 2 points be?
For sure. My personal thesis, and as a company, what we believe in is that you can really think of products in crypto into 2 layers, right? The bottom layer, you have your network and protocol layer, right? These are the L1s and L2s and stablecoins and NFTs. And on top of that, you have the application layer. In Web 2, the protocol layer usually are thin, and you have the fat application on top. But in Web 3, that's sort of flip on reverse, right? Protocols are usually quite fat, and application layers are quite thin. Just the nature of the openness of crypto and how composable it is. So for applications to win, personally, I believe that you need to build applications that are cross chains, cross protocols. So what that means is that if you look at, let's take an example as OpenSea, right? If you want to buy an NFT, users don't want to interact with each NFT protocol separately. They want an easy way, an easy to use marketplace to browse and list and sell their NFTs, regardless of what protocol or what network it's on. That's the way that we view Starlight too, is that really the competitive advantage that we have is that by building this ecosystem, we don't limit businesses to building within one chain using one tool. We really can do very, very interesting thing cross chain. Let's say because we have your custodial wallet and you have your custody wallet and we also have your bank account, we can build one of the first sort of end-to-end visualization of where your fund is along that process that our competitor might not be able to do. Or let's say we'll be able to sync data from one place to the other place pretty much instantly. So for us, our competitive advantage and the way we view it is like, how do we build, the fattest application layer across as many protocols and networks as possible? Because what matters to us is that we want to hold the customer relationship end to end here. Because as you can see in crypto, there's a lot of things that are, in my mind, will be commoditized eventually because things are just so open. As soon as someone releases something, 10 other copycats out there, right? That is pretty much on chain. Everyone can see it. You don't have that same moat in data as you have in Web 2, and you don't have the tech moat as you have in Web 2 as well. So in Web 3, really the moat, you have to build something else in the application layer.
That's really interesting. It seems like what you're saying is that being horizontal, being multi-chain, and being first big one that is horizontal across all of these chains can be your moat, right? It's kind of like Zapier, right? Once they go out and build hundreds of integrations, no other player is going to come and try to dominate that space. That's really interesting. All right. I think we're almost out of time on this episode. But just as we wrap up here, I wanted to ask, you guys raised some money recently. I'm sure you're hiring. Is there anything that you'd like to plug on the pod?
Yeah, for sure. So our team is currently still hiring for incredibly talented folks. We have a very, very passionate team here in the New York City area and always looking for operators, engineers who are passionate about building the next generation of tools to serve the next generation of builders. So if you are interested in what we're building or interested in working with us, please reach out to me. Our Twitter is Starlight_money, or you can reach out personally to me at gray@starlight.money.
Awesome. Very cool. And hey, if our listeners want to follow you, is there one best place to do it? LinkedIn, Twitter? Feel free to drop a handle here.
Yeah, Twitter would be great. You can follow me via Gray Nguyen. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well via Gray Nguyen.
Awesome. Great. It was such a pleasure to have you on the pod. A lot of great insights here. I'm really excited to chat with you in episode 2 about strategies, tactics, and hacks. And that's it, folks. That's today's episode. We'll see you next time for episode 2.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, and that wraps up today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Now, just before I let you go, I wanted to reiterate one thing. We're trying to build the best podcast out there for aspiring entrepreneurs, and to do that, we need your help. The best way you can help us is by joining our Discord community. The link is in the description below, and then leaving us feedback. Tell us how we did. Tell us how we can improve. We're eagerly waiting to hear from you. Other than that, show us some love and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod. And I think that's everything I have for you. We'll see you next time on The Breakouts.